everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and today we're going to work on covering the outside of our farmhouse. And I've got my spine, and I'm going to do a wrap spine, and I go through this every time. I believe I can't. I want to say Rosa Kelly, but I don't think that's right. Anyways, this is a technique that I picked up from another scrapper, and the key to it is to sort of alternate the size of tape that you have laying on your inside. So basically you've got tape and then a space and then tape, so that allows the tape to sort of stretch around. And that is what she claims prohibits the spine from cracking. And so far I've had really good luck with it. So this is going to be wrapped. These are going to be the sides. And this is going to go like so. So I am actually going to go ahead and I think lay down, I'm going back and forth on whether or not I want to lay down the sides first or lay down the spine first. And I think I'll lay down the spine first because these are trimmed out to go the full length of the page, and this is going to wrap slightly over it. So I'm trying to decide if I want to try to salvage the 2 inches on each side that I'd be saving to repurpose inside the album somewhere, because this spine piece, I have made it 6.5 inches wide. So the center is 2.5 inches, and then I want about 2 inches to wrap around toward the front. So that's the current plan. So let me think about this for a second and try to make a decision. I think, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and take off the center pieces and lay down the center part of the spine. And before I take all the rest of the tape off, I think I'll do some measuring and possibly take off a couple inches on both sides. So that's the current plan, and I may adjust accordingly as I go. So the challenge I find with doing the wrap spine like what I'm doing is in getting this continuous line that goes all the way across so that you don't get staggers where it's up or down past this. That's kind of the challenge. And to getting it to go across a spread that is 22.5 inches wide when it's fully opened is kind of the challenge. So I'm going to try this by laying this down first, just the centerpiece. And of course, when I go to adhere the rest of it, it can't be flat. It needs to have some shape to it. But I'm going to go ahead and start by taking off the center pieces of the tape here. Get the centerpiece in, and then take a look and see how I'm doing. And again, the wider it is when you open it fully, the more of a challenge it is to get it in straight. So I'm going to do is everything I can to cheat or have reference lines. So I'm laying down my book so that it's following the grid on my work surface. So that's going to be helpful. Take off one more strip. Okay, so I just took off this centerpiece, so it's basically right in the middle of this, and I put in a small tick mark there, and I've got tick marks on both ends of the spine piece to try to line it up as best I can. So I'm going to try to tack down one side and then swivel it until I get this lined up. Is the plan. Now, this is the center line, but when I line it up, I can see that it's drifting up too far. So I don't want to, I'm not going to follow that. I'm going to go more in line with what's happening visually. And this looks straighter to me. So now I'm going to lay in my two end pieces and see how they're looking. Sorry, that's my dog going a little ballistic in the background. I'm sure she heard a mailman or something. So it's not as straight as I'd want it to be, which makes me think that this piece might not be straight square. So I'm going to test it. And that was not very smart of me. I just tore my black paper, which is a little bit upsetting, but I'm going to try to tack it back down. All right. Plan B, I'm going to lay these panels down and then I'm going to do the wrap over them. So that's what I've decided to do. And I'm just seeing which side fits better. All right, so that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down, and yeah, I'm verifying that I inked it. And I'm standing up, which I don't like to do, but I need to be able to see both sides at one time. I need to get over it. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to do this next side, and then when I do the wrap, I'm going to make sure to stand it up and put it at maybe a 30-degree angle, or so that it's not fully closed and not fully open. Somewhere in between. Okay, so that's in. All right. So now we're gonna turn it on its side. I'm gonna burnish this stuff in place first, because I won't be able to get to it after we get the spine on. Okay, so it's looking about like this, and now I'm gonna stand it on its side, but I just want you to see about how far. So this would be fully closed. So I'm going about like that. So I'm saying that's about 30 degrees, roughly. And I'm standing it on its end. And then I'm looking to get these lines to line up with the designer paper that I've already put down. And this is a very fussy process, so don't be upset if it doesn't happen right away. It's not uncommon that you have to fuss around with it for a little bit, which is part of the reason why I only have the center strips missing, removed right now, because I don't want it to grab before I'm ready. There we go. See how nice that's lined up? And if you look, it's pretty lined up on this side too. So I'm going to, while it's still standing straight up, burnish the centerpiece so it doesn't want to lift up when we start pulling the tape from the rest, okay? And then, like I said, just be patient. Pull a strip, press it, pull a strip, press it as you go. And you should be pretty happy with the result. I'm gonna go ahead and cap my glue because it's gonna take a few minutes to finish up. Okay, and my pick tool. All right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pull this tape off. And I'm going to go back and forth, one row off each side, going back and forth, alternating, and remembering to open the book back up. As I go. Okay, now let's do the other side. Another one from this side. Kathy Orta. That's where it came from. I knew her name would come to me at some point. Kathy Orta. And she does lots of tutorials online. I think she even makes paper. I'm not sure. I think she goes, she's been doing crafting and scrapping for quite a while, and for a while had actually done some design for paper. I'm not sure what she's doing anymore. But anyways, that's where I got this tip. So I want to give credit where credit's due. Like I said, it took me a minute to remember her name. Okay, now don't press it down until you open it back up. Okay, now it looks like that's most of up to the hinge, at least on this side. Now we've got one more strip on this side. And then the rest of it will be just what comes over and lays on the cover itself. Okay, open it back up. So my understanding is you're opening it so that when you open the book, you don't wind up with all this excess paper stuck in your hinge area. But still there's enough give that when you go to close the album, it doesn't want to tear the paper off. And that's partly why you're using those different strips of tape, so that there's a little give between them. And like I said, so far I've had very good luck with this. I really like the look of it, because it reminds me more of a regular bound book. But it is a little bit fussy as compared to just laying down 3 panels, you know, one on the spine and one on the covers. Okay, now we're ready to start pulling the tape off what's actually just going to lay down on the cover itself. And the tape that I used 5/8 and 3/8, and I just sort of alternated and made sure that I had 3/8 going across where the hinge is itself, so that there would be a split there. Now, if you do wind up where these things aren't perfectly lined up here and here, there's some ways to mask that. And one is to add a decorative strip where the two pieces join to try to mask that. So far, I'm pretty happy with my result. But if I wasn't, that's what my plan would be, is to take a decorative strip or even a strip of ribbon and lay it right over the two. A little tedious, but I think it's worth the effort. Okay, we got a couple more strips and we're almost there. Almost there. Okay. Yeah, this is the last one on this side, and then we got one more on the other, and then we have finished. Okay, one more. And then don't be aggressive when you're opening and closing your book. Let the fibers sort of fall into place. So work it slowly. Don't be impatient with it. So I would just go back and forth a little bit, not too aggressively. Make sure everything's burnished into place. Just back and forth, easy peasy. Let the paper start to get some memory for the new form. Okay. All right. So that's pretty good. I'm actually going to take my bone folder and go over all of this carefully, and then I'm going to set it aside while I prepare all the internal papers that I've got picked out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera and line up the insides, and we'll work on that when I get back. Hey everyone, it's Daphne, and I'm back, and I've got my papers laid out for the insides of the covers. As you know, we just finished the outside. Now we're going to work on the inside. And so here is what I've chosen, and this is from the 12 by 12. I think it's patterns and solids, but I'm not positive. And so basically it's the front and back of the same pattern. So you're going to wind up using 1 1/4 sheets or 1 1/3 sheets to do the lines. You have to, if you want it to go the full width of the book, you have to pick something from the 12 by 12 patterns or collection pack, since the cover is 10.5 inches wide. So that's what I did, and I'm ready to go ahead and sit down and get this glued in. I didn't want to do just a solid black because it's just too busy. So I'm really kind of liking the way this is coming together. So I'm going to start by adding the 2 larger panels, and then coming back and adding the yellow strip in between after I get these 2 larger panels put down. And so I'm doing a real tight border, a 1/16 inch border, which means this is 10 3/8, and then it's 4 inches wide, 10 3/8 and 4 inches, and that's the same for all 4 pieces. And then this is a 1 inch strip. And it could be any contrast. I just like the way that looked. But I think the red strip would look pretty too. I may wind up attaching a flap to the inside panels, but I'm not done decorating my pages, so I don't know how much paper I have left, so I'm not sure yet. But I may do like a bifold ephemera card that opens up so you could do some journaling on the inside. But like I said, I haven't finished decorating, so I don't know what's left. So I'm going to hold off on that because I like the way this looks even if I don't do anything else with it. All right. Okay, I'm going to turn it upside down so that I can see these edges better. And if you recall from the outside, it really isn't directional. So at this moment, it doesn't really matter, but once you get your pages in, it'll matter because you'll want the words to be right side up. I am going to use, actually I'm going to use my metal ruler here and just make sure that I've got a very straight, consistent line going top to bottom. And I do, before I press it into place. Okay. It's a little hard to visualize because black on black, it doesn't, the border doesn't pop up as much. So I just use my little ruler to make sure it's what I want. I'm going to get a little more glue here on the corner. Oh, so I had a comment from one of you guys on YouTube, and I apologize for not remembering your name, but somebody was asking me about using Tyvek, and I've heard lots of good things about it. I've never used it. Tyvek's just not readily available. I know you can get it in the mailing section, but for whatever reason, I've just never tried it, and I like my bookbinding tape. So I really like the bookbinding tape. The one drawback I find to the bookbinding tape is it's quite thick. And I do think Tyvek is a little bit thinner and lighter. And like I said, I can't speak to it. I've heard good things, but I've never tried it. But some people use it in their spine and also on their hinges. And it seems like a good idea. I just haven't tried it. So I would say yes, by all means, if you have it available, try it. Looks pretty straight. Okay, so I am just laying this in and I'm going to trim it exactly to fit. There's always a chance that one of these didn't go in square when it's slightly askew, so I put a mark on both sides. So I'm going to trim it to fit, not trim it necessarily to be square. Although in this case, it looks pretty close. Oh, I just got a cramp in my hand. That smarts. There we go. And so I'm just looking for that continuous straight line from the top to the bottom. And I think that's going to do it. There we go. Looks lovely. So my plan is actually to do this on this side. And I'm going to turn it right side up again. And I just want it centered between these two. So I'm going to run some glue in between here. And then put a little on the outside. I like to be generous with the glue on the inside because of the chipboard. It's super thirsty. So if you want a little time to slide it into place, make sure you put plenty of glue down. And I just remembered I trimmed one edge, so I have to ink it real quick. If I recall, it goes this way. Real quick, I'm just gonna check that it's going pretty straight across the bottom. And it is not, so or is it? I'm blind. It's actually drifting up quite a bit, so let's see if I can't adjust this a little. Okay, it was drifting a little bit up. I think it still is, but once I get all my pages in, it won't be so obvious. Okay. I think I'll do a reference line on this side so that doesn't happen again. And it looks like, yeah, I've already trimmed these. Okay. And then let's turn it upside down, do the same thing. know about y'all, but I'm getting kind of tired of being stuck at home. It's getting a little dull. Oops, that slid too much. So let's try that again. Wow, that's really crooked. I'm not happy with that at all. So this is one I'm going to square off the top and try to trade off. Sometimes I don't get my covers completely square, and that is where the problem lies, which is not that easy to, I mean, it's not that hard to do. Get your covers slightly askew, and you know, a 1/16 of an inch is enough to make a difference. All right, so I'm going to try to use my yellow strip to soften that back up a bit. Let's go this way. All right, let's see what I did. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. So it looks like 3 3/4. So 3 3/4 right here is where the bottom of my yellow strip should go. And let's look at 3 3/4 on this side. Let's double check. 3 3/4 is the bottom. Okay. Okay, I think that's gonna look right, but let's test it. Looks pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and get my little pencil marks off there. Ink the end and get some glue down. All right. Here we go. Okay, so there's our oops, sorry about that. I forgot how big it was. There's our inside liners. So we have the outside and the inside, so we're making good progress. Looks like I got a little glue here. I'm gonna see if I can't pick it up with my kneaded eraser. Okay, so thanks everybody. I'll be back soon. We'll continue working on the album. I'm gonna go tack down all my edges, make sure they're all grabbing. And okay, that's it for now. Hey everyone, it's so exciting. It's time to put our pages in the book. We are almost there. We are on the 1 yard line. So you're gonna, I'm gonna go ahead and install one page. Once I show you guys how to do it once, you should be able to replicate that throughout the rest of the book. And also, if you have watched any of my detailed tutorials on how to build a base album, I show you how to install the pages And it's a lot actually easier, I think, to look at that tutorial than this one where there's all the patterns and everything complicating what I'm trying to demonstrate. If you look at the base tutorials, I show you how to install. Even though I show you how to install, I recommend that you don't install and set the pages aside, but I wanted to show you how to do it. So I am going to go ahead and do one right now, as I just said, but it is a little bit hard to watch because there's so much pattern. So I'm going to double check that my pages are in the order that I want them inserted. And this is page 1, there's page 2, page 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and page 8. So everything is in the order that I want to install it. So I'm going to try to keep them stacked up over here in that order. And what I do now, and I didn't do this in the beginning, I used to try to peel back part of the tape and slip the page onto the hinge. Now I just slip it on with the tape there, and I leverage this this hook tool or pick tool that I refer to it as to reach under and pull that tape backing off. And I really like this technique better because there's no tape exposed. The page will slide right over it much easier. I also prefer to have a very tight fit on my hinge inside my pocket. So it's only 1/8 of an inch shorter than the width of the page. So you do have to work at it, but the nice thing is once the pages are in, there's no up and down movement. They'll all be the same height in the book. All right, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and sit down and we're gonna get one of these put on, and then I'm gonna get this uploaded. So this is page 1. Make sure you're opening it and taking a look and that you're actually inserting the hinge inside the pocket page. And I know that seems pretty obvious, but I have to tell you that I have, on occasion, lifted up a flap and installed it between 2 flaps and missed the pocket entirely and removed the tape. So just make sure you're actually in the pocket, slip it over your hinge, and then we are going to lay it down both to the left and right. And what we're looking for is we're looking to see if it's even. And if it's not even, what that's usually an indication of is that your hinge is not in straight. And I can see right here very clearly, and I'm sure you can too, this page is drifting down. So my hinge must not be straight. But there is a solution short of taking your hinge out, and that is adjusting your page up so that it's straight and holding it in place. Even though it's not straight on the hinge, it's going to lay in the book straight. Now, because my hinge is not in straight, it's likely that I'll have to do this for each one of my pages. So do lay it down left and right and see what looks best before you remove your tape. And it is definitely drifting down. So I'm going to actually turn it, and I'm going to bump the camera, I'm sure, so that I can see both sides a little bit more clearly and get this on as straight as I can. And then hold it in place while I reach in and get that tape out. So I'm holding it in place, applying a significant amount of pressure right here under my hand. I'm going to use the pick tool to remove this tape backing. I'm going to try. All right, so there, we've got a good start. If you fold it over on itself, it won't tear. It'll just peel out and come out just like a zipper. Okay, now before I press it into place, I'm looking to see if I shifted, and it looks good to me, so I'm going to press it in place. And once you do one side, you can release it and not be so stressed out. It's in. Now on the flip side, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to pull your tape out and press it into place. Okay? So the other reason that it might look like it's up or down, and I can see I actually put my hinge way low. The other reason it might happen is if you, for whatever reason, didn't get your pages straight across. But I typically do check that by looking at my grid line on my work surface, and it is pretty straight. So it's pretty likely that I got the hinge in a little bit crooked, and it happens. And there's a way around it, just like what I described. So that's it for this video. When the next time we get together, sorry, that's my polish, it keeps flaking off everywhere. Next time we get together, I'll be going through a walkthrough and pointing out all the embellishments that I've done since we last got together. Okay, I'll see you guys soon.